All right, this is a video overview and demonstration of downloadable file to 3D print the adjustable scope ring fit system. I don't have a good name for it. Yes, I have creative names for some of the other stuff I've done for other things, not for this stuff. It's simple system. It's not meant to be any kind of a permanent scope mount. It's simply a diagnostic tool so you can achieve the right ergonomics to look through that scope, so you don't have to buy a whole ton of rings. Because anybody who's been in the sport of metallic silhouette for any period of time knows that you have to, you end up buying tons of rings. I mean, because you may change your rifle stock, you may change it to a different scope, swap out rifles, and you want to get the correct scope height. So when you're looking through there, you have your neck fairly upright, no strain, no stress. And you can go crazy buying different things. I mean, you can just, you'll see in a minute, I literally have a whole toolbox full of rings that I've accumulated over the years. Ridiculous. So this is just an easy 3D print. Doesn't cost you anything. You just have to be a member of Metallic Silhouette Shooter Society, a Facebook group. Download it from the file section. It's all yours. Go nuts. Print a million of them. If you have a silhouette club, you should have a set of these, because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier while you're bringing in new members, fitting them to their rifles. They can come to you and say, look, I just bought this scope. What do I need? And you can get them set up. You can, hold it up. I mean, it's not perfectly stable, obviously, because it's just a 3D print. So it's got a little bit of wobble to it. But I mean, you can dry fire, look through the scope. You can determine what your eye relief should be. You can just pick it up, look right through it. This one's a little off because I've been messing with it. I'll show you in a second. You're going to need a level to set it up, to level the scope, make sure it's in line with the rifle. You can sit there and just take your time and get it perfect. All right, we get into how we actually use this little piece of equipment. Now, you're probably going to need some sort of, stand to put it on, because you got to keep everything level. So we'll get that reasonably level. You're going to have in your box of tricks. This is my scope install box. I literally have a box of tools just for scopes. And the reason I built this is because, I've got rings. These are the levels I'm actually looking for. More rings. I mean, it's just, and another kind of ring. That might be the other one for that one. I mean, it's just crazy. You have to get so many different kinds of rings, different sets of rings, setting up different rifles, different heights. Part of this comes from setting up rifles for my kids. My kids grow. So now so you're gonna want to have some levels. I've got some little bubble levels. I've got a magnetic receiver level. You're gonna want a pair of calipers for measuring the different distances. So when you make adjustments, you're going to just loosen the thumb screw, adjust it to where you want to get it. So say you want to, I'm not measuring right now. You're going to want to level the receiver. You're going to want to level the scope. Right there, that's obviously not level. Loosen that thumb screw, bring it up. All right, down low. Now my receiver level, the gun's level, scope's level. I confirm that that's the height I'm testing. Then I can physically take it, and I can actually, hold it up, look through it, see if it's good, see if it's not good, see if it's about right, see if it feels comfortable. I can actually do some dry fire practice. Um, the This is designed again for 1-inch tube. I'm working on one for 30 millimeter, but I'm not there yet because I got to get everything centered. But these rings don't grip really tight on the tube for two reasons. One, I don't want you scratching up your expensive scope just trying to get the sights in right, just trying to get the height right. The second reason is you're going to want to adjust while you're adjusting height. You're also going to want to play with eye relief. So you may want to be moving it in and out, back and forth a little bit. If it has too much movement, you can always use a little piece of painter's tape to try to take up some of that space. Now the other thing I use when I'm setting things up is I use painter's tape to mark my position back and forth so I get that eye relief correct. So when I do install the real rings, I have a reference point. So I mean, you get the idea here. Change it, you know, if it's too high, too short. I mean, you can look right through and actually see, you know, set up some targets somewhere so you can actually see what you're doing. It's actually pretty comfortable for me, except it's not level in that direction. Now, see, another reason to keep it loose. And this is not meant to be any kind of a real, that's fun. This isn't meant to be any kind of a real scope mounting system, because it's going to be a little bit wobbly. You know, the higher you get, it's going to be a little bit more wobbly, because it's not, there's a ridiculous amount of elevation in here, way more than you would ever really use. But I did that just so nobody can say I didn't put in enough, you know. I mean, it goes all the way up like that, which is crazy. I mean, you're never going to use that. You're going to use probably from here, you know, from the bottom to maybe a couple inches. Consult your rule book. But it's just that simple. And you can see how that scope is kind of turning around in there. I mean, you're going to need to put a little bit of, maybe a little bit of tape in there, a little bit of paper in there to take up that slack. But that's so, you know, I don't want it to be too tight for you. All right, now we can break this down on camera so you can see how it all goes together. I've made everything to go together with very simple tools. You know, this is about what you're going to need: a small Phillips and a small flathead. Specifically designed it to go together with just basic, you know, hardware you're going to find at a hardware store. No fancy equipment. I mean, I've got the scope rings held together with number 4 by 3/8 screws, and the rail mount is nothing but holding that together but a number 4 by 40 by 1 inch. Simple stuff. I mean, simple, you know, little bags of hardware you can get anywhere. Farm supply store, hardware store, anywhere. Keep it simple. One side off. There's no sense in taking both sides off. Just that simple. That's all it is. Little thumb screw. You got to print up the thumb screw. That changes your elevation. Tighten it up to wherever you need it. It tightens against there, and it's tight enough that you can measure the distance here that you need. You know, it goes on a weaver rail, pick rail. The parts that you're going to print, the files that you're going to print, are the thumb screw, the rings. The base is actually more than one print. It's the base itself, you know, the actual part that locks on, which is actually 2 pieces. And I'll go through that in the print preview of how to print it. There's a little trick to keeping it stuck to the build plate. And the actual riser itself, which has pins, it just snaps in, pins into that, and snaps in. I would suggest, I don't have it this way because I'm showing it to people. I would suggest that you put a dab of super glue on here, CA glue, snap them together, There's a relief designed into it to keep it so you have plenty of room to stick a screwdriver in there and tighten and loosen your nuts and bolts. It's really simple. The one thing that you do need to know when you do print anything where you're 3D printing threaded parts, okay? You're going to print this, you're going to print this. Take your two threaded parts and you're going to work them together. You're going to start the threads, okay? You're going to have maybe a little pair of pliers or something. You're going to grab this and unthread it, okay? Clean it out with something, clean it out with a little pick or something. Clean out these threads. Clean, clean, clean. And you're going to go back in again another, 1/8 of an inch. You're going to screw these threads down again. They're going to be real tight. You're going to grab this with a pair of pliers. You're going to back it out again. And you're going to repeat that process until you have a nice working part, because you're working with molten plastic, and it's good. It makes a very precise print. It's not perfect. But that's the simple long and short of how it works. Now I'll just go on and give you a quick print preview. Remember, this is all available free downloads. It doesn't cost you anything. Diagnostic tool, ready to roll. You just have to be a member of Metallic Silhouette Shooter Society on Facebook. That simple. All right, we can go through the 3D print process. This is the little thumb screw nut bolt. And the only difference with this one is we're going to use an infill setting. I'm doing this on Cura. You can do this on an infill setting of 100% because you want to keep this very solid, because you're going to put a little bit of stress on it, screwing it in, screwing it out. We'll give you a little preview of what it's going to look like, a little quick view of the print process. And that's your little thumb screw. Now all the other prints are going to be printed at 25% infill, which gives you a little bit of strength, but you don't need to make them completely solid because it's just a diagnostic tool. Here are the rings. There I am setting it back to 25% infill. That would be normal. Give you a little print preview on this one. Now remember, you're going to print 2 sets of everything to hold the scope in. This little section down there, I just pointed out, is a point part you're going to have to clean out a little bit as you're, once you get everything printed, to make it thread together nice. These are the risers. Again, you're going to have to print 2 of everything. I just show you 1 of everything on this. There's the risers, the little pins where it pins together on the base. No preview of how it'll print. And the actual base clamp itself. Now I print this in a vertical position like this to make sure I have nice crisp edges that clamp onto the rail. Now this is actually 2 pieces. If I focus in here, you might be able to see where there's 2 pieces. That's 1 piece by itself. So in order to do that, we're going to adjust our bed adhesion. We're going to give it a little skirt to hold it to the build plate. My particular machine has a heated build plate, which helps. And that just keeps that 1 extra small piece that right now is on the right hand side. That's going to hopefully keep that all attached to the build plate, because there's nothing left in the middle. There's a little space in the middle there, and you don't want it flying apart when you're halfway through the print. And that's that. It's just that simple.